Splitting Hairs Podcast. Go big, go blue, go Jacks.
Welcome to the Splitting Hairs Podcast. It's your Hobo week edition here. Stack just got back from Austin. Had to jump on with you for some Friday Night Football. Appreciate you joining. For those of you listening, like, subscribe if you would, please. That helps us appear to get more eyes on all the Jacks content you love that we try to bring to you as effectively as we can. So we appreciate your support. Weigh in the comments. Tell us that we're a couple of knuckleheads, idiots, whatever. Tell us how great we are. It's up to you. It's your prerogative. Before we dive in, just want to shout out our sponsors, Utamark Insurance. If you need coverage fast, visit Utamark Insurance today to get a free quote in minutes. Our friendly agents are ready to help you find the plan that fits your needs and your budget. You don't want to wait for life surprises to catch you off guard. With Utamark Insurance, you're always one step ahead. That's real security. So check them out, Utamark Insurance. Appreciate you sponsoring the Splitting Hairs Podcast. As always, shout out to Cottonwood Coffee and Bistro. They got the best eats in town, farm fresh to table, as well as unbelievable hot and cold selections of beverages of your choice. Get a little upper before your Hobo Day festivities tomorrow, before the parade. Stop into the bistro. There's not going to be a whole lot of studying, I would imagine, as Friday is upon us and about to wrap up, and all the shenanigans are going to take place tomorrow. But for those of you who are studious, they have a great spot on Main to get some work done and to vibe out with some friends. So go check them out. They have their seasonal menu up and rocking. So thank you, Cottonwood Coffee and Bistro. Stack, there was a beatdown in Cedar Falls. We may have to call the Wildlife and Fishery Department of Iowa there, because there's some murdered Panthers last weekend.
Yeah, the boys handled biz last week for sure. I mean, you look at and this is best case scenario, from what we've seen all season, kind of. It looks like they really found their groove. Defense, offense, D-line coming alive, being able to run the ball how we were, Mark being efficient. Like, if you're a Jackrabbit fan, I don't think you could ask for last Saturday to go any better, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of special teams, they've been consistent as all get out this year. Whether it be the return game from Angels' perspective on KOR, or Dallas Beanham housing it in Hammond, Louisiana, to him setting us up with excellent field position to either score or set up a score last week in Cedar Falls. The boys are rocking in that element. So it's nice to see defensively. Man, people were questioning the Jacks a little bit here and there. Obviously, we got to get some guys healthy still. Cale Reeder being out the remainder of the season, that's a bummer, because he always brings the wood from that secondary position at safety. But we've seen guys step up and not miss a beat, and that's something that we've been accustomed to the past few years with the Jacks, particularly on defense, and particularly as we've been able to build more and more depth. And that was one thing I was a bit skeptical of seeing early, because, Coach Rogers has always been a guy where he has to be able to trust you in terms of executing your responsibilities and not being a liability out there on the field. But as he's been able to really ingratiate these guys with his defensive philosophy, with the characteristics necessary to get more playing time, I think you're starting to see waves of multiple units come in, and it's really done a couple things. One, it's spelled our really high value players, like your box, like your defensive line on the interior there with Jared DePriest and Max Balloon. Hawthorne stepped up big, Kobe Claiborne on the edge, Dawson Ruperta. The chain gang was fully in its element in Cedar Falls. And so long story short, the defense has really been the juice for the team as a whole, in my humble opinion, because, past iterations of the Jacks have been the sexy, high-flying offenses, whether it's Winicky taking tops off. Obviously, the rapport that we have with our tight ends, Dallas Goedert, Tucker Kraft, Zach Hines. Now to see the defense really assume the mantle from last year, only allowing 15 total points in the FCS playoff run up to their second championship back-to-back for those who are new here. And then to see what they've done this year, man. They've really carried the torch. What are your thoughts as a whole, as far as the defensive unit and how they've kind of come to play?
One thing before we get to the defense.
Yeah.
And this is just Mason's watching right now, and he keeps calling me and keeps texting me. Hey, Mason, I see your text. I'm on this. Stop it. Okay.
Let's get this bread, Mason.
Yeah. So I think the defense, especially, I want to say, last week, the guys really came alive. Like it was a really fun game to watch, especially, from all levels, linebackers making plays, safeties laying the boom, defensive line really came alive against a team that always has good offensive linemen. You know what I'm saying? Like they hang their hat on that. So, it doesn't matter how good UNI is, what their record looks like, week in and week out. I think every single year, they're going to hang their hat on, we're going to have tough physical offensive linemen, and we're going to be able to run the ball, and you're not going to touch our quarterback. And to see our defensive line come in and play the way they did, our two starters, Jared and Boone, both with sacks. I think Boone's was a strip sack too, I want to say, and then Jared had a strip as well. Like, it's, man, from a former defensive lineman, I got to tell you, I was having a ball watching those guys play. Especially against an offensive line like that. Usually, when you're playing FCS ball, or at least Missouri Valley ball, the two offensive lines you're crossing out on your calendar are NDSU, and then these guys. And to put up a performance like that on them is very impressive.
And at their place. So there's no better feeling than rolling into someone else's house and stealing their food. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
it's a tough place to play too.
That is a tough place to play. No matter what the energy is from the fans, just because the surface is trash, and that's to put it nicely. I mean, looking at all the different footwear the guys have to try to assemble to just get traction, but also to be able to open it up in open field. It's just, to be honest, I think, like, if we're talking about player safety and stuff, they got to do away with that garbage, like hybrid AstroTurf that you can't even really get good footing in, because what happens is guys end up with lower body injuries left and right on that. And they can use it as a sorry, I'm distracted by all the madness in these comments. Sometimes we get a lot of spam. But no, it's just one of those things where you're going into someone else's house. The surface doesn't play the greatest, but the overhang, over the sidelines, which we've talked about several times on here, it's just it's not comfortable, and that's exactly what you want in a home field advantage, regardless of which home team it is. One of the things that is really cool to see, as you mentioned, Jared DePriest play on Saturday. Early on in the season, you and I were texting back and forth, like, is he at full strength? What's going on with him? Because I thought he'd have a little bit bigger impact early. Obviously, he had some lingering issues that we won't get into, but what he did on Saturday was fully announce himself in this 2024 campaign for sure. He had the trifecta, right? He had a sack, he had a forced fumble, and then I believe he had a fumble recovery as well. So, I mean,
2 TFLs also. He's like, and that's one thing that I just love, because every single year, like, there's someone that says, like, I'm that guy for us. You know what I'm saying? I think Jared just kicked the door down and said, like, you know what, like, I am him. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys need someone to rally behind the D line.
And you made a phenomenal point last week when you and I were just talking off script after we stopped recording. But I think it's worth bringing up, and it's interesting that Mason's listening, because we were talking specifically, like, who's going to be that guy? Who's going to be the glue guy that is not afraid to get in your own teammate's grill, when you got to have it? Because you need a person like that. It's better to lead by example, but you also have to have those examples sometimes rally the troops. And that has to come in the form of, some no nonsense, I'm going to get in your grill, but I'm also going to show you that I'm going to produce type character. And that's what he's starting to emerge as, I think, as far as on the defensive front.
I think a huge part of it is, because you can have guys like, your rally guys say, like, guys, we need to do better, like, blah, blah, blah. But, like, if you're not out there playing and you're not out there balling, like for example, I think before the first national championship, I'm not going to name any names, but before our first national championship, we Coach Stig asked, like, people to stand up and say something. And, like, so it was like most of the seniors. And then there was one guy that stood up and like had told us, like, guys, like, we need a blah, 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 blah. And like everyone just kind of look around like, did he just say what I thought he said? You know what I'm saying? Just because, like, I'm not trying to hear that from you if you're not one of those guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're not out there, if you're not taking names, if you're not making plays, like, what do you have to tell me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think guys like Jared stepping up is huge because, I mean, granted, I think you already had that credibility from, you know, what he's been showing, but like to still say, like, you know, injuries, whatever, blah, blah, like, I still got it. You know what I'm saying? So definitely cool to see him step in that role.
Absolutely. And like I said before, obviously this Jacks team is not running on reputation, but your results create your reputation from a leadership standpoint as far as individuals and specific units. And I think the two units that got to win in Missouri Valley play and be able to bring home a national title is the Chain Gang and the 605 Hogs. The 605 Hogs, which we'll get into a little bit earlier, I like how they're starting to gel more and more with different bodies on there. They also got to get healthy. They have some pieces that I don't think are necessarily at full strength. But I like seeing Marcus Hicks step up, you know, at that right tackle position. Transfers, it's hard to acclimate to new offensive schemes, especially when you got 1 year. You know, it's make or break time, right, for those guys. And for him to come in, ingratiate himself with the guys enough to be able to earn some playing time, some significant playing time, I think that speaks volumes. Then they're going to continue to gel. And as far as offense is concerned, and we'll dive into that in more detail, but there's still plenty of room left to grow into a more mature offense. I'd like to see a lot more out of them. But again, shifting back to defense, who else did you like what you saw from on Saturday?
I mean, of course, Bach. He's gonna, and like that's like a lame answer to say, but like it's true. You know, like week in and week out, like it sounds like a no-brainer. But I mean, this dude he's like a machine out there. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And if you slip up, then you throw that ball in the spot you probably shouldn't. Like that's the result you're gonna get. Turf Monster got him a little bit, so he couldn't take it to the crib. I texted him. I was like, bro, you can't. I'm like, you out there looking like you're not looking like an athlete. Like a better athlete would have took that for 6. But
yeah,
you know, the plays he's able to make, I think. I mean, I would say most also like we're rotating in a decent amount of linebackers, and I'd say like across the board they're playing good football. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. No, you can always rely on Bach.
Yes. Yeah, Scott gets it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. That's what I was just going to say. Yeah, thanks, Scott. I appreciate you. He's the consistent lunch pail guy. He's going to get people where they need to be. You know, he's going to be where he needs to be 99% of the time. There's one time I don't think he carried far enough in deep middle. He knew it right away, but he corrected it, obviously, as the game went on to notch a pick. It's funny you mentioned him tripping. I slowed the game down on the rewatch, and I watched how many yards he did the three-legged dog. That's what we call that drill from an H-back tight end running back position when we're in practice. It's called three-legged dog. We actually practice that. I highly doubt the linebackers do. The only times they work on, you know, getting their hands down or defeating cut blocks. But he did it for 7 yards. He did the three-legged dog. I'm like, my ass would have fallen on my face after the first one. So I was kind of impressed, even though he wasn't looking like his true athletic self. I was kind of impressed that he was able to do that for 7 yards and then get back some type of a full stride.
Yeah, no, he's a beast. I'd say, was that Bryce also had a sack?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he had a sack?
I love how he's playing, man. He's young, so he's still got a lot of feeling, you know.
I think he could be another guy that could be a force in pass pro for sure. But I do gotta tell him though, whatever that celebration was, dog, we gotta fix
like it.
I think it was some. I thought it was some anime stuff. Like, no, get that out of there.
Tolu is rolling over right now. He would love that.
Yeah, so I know he would.
Here's my take. I thought it was some Mortal Kombat stuff. I thought he was like doing some finish him stuff. I have no idea.
That would be tough, but I don't know. That looked a little bit too close to anime for me. So let's get you a little fist bump in there. You got plenty more sacks in your career, Bryce. Trust me, bro. Just do a little fist pump until we figure out your official one. All right.
I feel you. I mean, maybe this will rub some people the wrong way. Maybe I'm just an old head here, but I'm an anti-anime guy. I'm not with that stuff.
So am I. So am I.
I got to agree. You are a comic book guy though, so
see.
I do get behind some of that.
People always make that comparison. They're like, "Oh, how can you not like anime? You like comic books?" I'm like, brother, they're so different.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a question then. Who is playing like a comic book hero, would you say, on Saturday? Obviously, you got to go with the Priest.
Yeah, Jared was playing like, I don't know what the Incredible Hulk, Superman, I don't know, but somebody who's strong, bro. Because he was literally unblockable on a lot of those, throwing guys around. I'd say Angel was out there playing like superhero too, though. We haven't gotten the offense yet.
My God.
Man. I'm like,
jeez, yeah. He continues to say, "Hey, don't forget about me."
Yeah, and it wasn't like people talk about. I heard the announcers say this, and I thought it was true. Like they talk about like yak yards, like yards after contact. Like for him, it's like yards after being like stood up. Like dudes will like face him up, and it's like, oh, okay, took that initial hit. Now let me go get 5 more. Right? Like his yak yards mean something different. Like we don't mean like, oh, he got touched here. Like no, like a dude fully faced him up, and then he threw him aside, and then got his extra 10. So.
And we gotta loop in Coach Jacobs here, because these guys, the physicality that they're playing with, obviously it starts in the weight room and how they take care of their bodies. And when you're looking at not only DePriest, how big of a bully he's being on the front line there, you look at guys like Bach. I mean, I always thought I had decent arms. Bach's arms look like they're chiseled out of granite. Angel, his whole physique looks like, it was gifted from, the gods above. And it's incredible, man, what they've been able to do in the weight room and continue to take strides. And a lot of the injuries, obviously, this year seem to be contact, whereas in years past when I was playing, it was a lot of stuff that just was accrued chronic conditions just from either, poor nutrition. Nutrition's come a long way. But yeah, man, it's been incredible to see just them continue to take strides. Each unit, like our DBs, like Beanham, Arell, all the guys we got, Kobe Humphrey. Geez, like they're making some waves, not only with their ability to change direction, obviously to run in the hip pocket with guys when they're going downfield, running nines, whatever they're doing. It's really just, it's showing up obviously in the stat sheet in their production as well. So that's what you like to see, transfer from the weight room to the football field. And just like Scott said, Jacobs is getting them looking like grown men.
Yeah.
We like it. One season in Brookings as the head man, but he's been around. He's got Brookings in his DNA, so we like that. Yeah, man, switching a little bit. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Caleb Francel. They always butcher his name, so we got to get that right, because he's name worthy in our hearts and in the program. And he's been showing up, man, filling, setting the edge strong, always showing up around the ball. Obviously, our guy, the law firm, he's always getting involved in some action.
Dayton as well was playing well. I saw he was putting his face on people, like all of our linebackers. And to shout out Francel, after being injured and kind of having to take, with Jason Freeman last year, kind of having to take like a reserve role a little bit and play a lot less, like to come back and play how he's playing right now. And like, a lot of people in that situation be like, oh, well, I'm good enough to start here. I could hit the portal or whatever. Like, it just shows like a strength of character on his part too, to do it the right way. You know what I'm saying? Like stick it out. And then like when my time comes, like make the most of it,
Certainly, man. I don't know if it's his brother, his uncle, or one of his family members on Twitter also, or X. He's you could tell the mentality is in their family, like no nonsense, cut to the point. I like that. I like to see that, because that tenacity that he plays with and that ability to be resilient and rise above any circumstances and still want to compete, because that's the biggest thing in the DNA of the Jacks, right? All these programs have continued to crave competition and not be weak and hit the portal or dodge inner squad competition, whether it's in your unit or, when you're going 1v1s. That's something that other young guys see and then they want to emulate. So that's actually a really, really good point you bring up. And then talking about our DBs, Arell obviously had a very tough go of it in the first game. He was coming off injury from the previous season as well. Now he's starting to click for him again. He's getting in rhythm.
The pick he got was nice. I got to shout him out. The pick was nice.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. And then so he got a pick. Bach got a pick. And then we had 2 fumbles. So I think we were +4 in the turnover game, and we continue to take strides in that element. I was disappointed, though, I got to say, in UNI as a whole, because, I'm definitely not disappointed that we blew them out, and I don't want to take anything away from the performance of the Jacks, but I was hoping we would get tested a bit more to continue to try to correct some things. And there's plenty to work on still when we get into the offense, but defensively, man, we buckled it up on Saturday.
Yeah, no, those dudes. And for them offensively wise, right? Like a lot of it, I don't know how much more they could have done, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like if with our like quarterback play for them, like there was much to be desired there. And like, it's a young guy and like you're getting used to it, and that's fine, whatever. But we definitely made it harder on him than he's probably ever seen in his life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, we held Dunn overall, the starter, number 10, to 8 of 15 for 113 and 2 picks, 7.5 yard average per clip. That's nothing. And then a lot of that was later in the game when they're, trying to build some type of offensive production to get back in it. And then Matthew Sheckelman, the guy who came in later, he was the guy slinging it around when the game was already decided and in hand. I mean, he went for 9 of 16 for 67 at a 4.2 yard clip. Overall, 17 of 31 for $180. That'll get it done any day of the week. And as Scott mentioned here, they did look like they've lost fight. And that's what happens when you build a roster of guys from all over the country. Coach Farley's been there a long time. Definitely not calling for anyone's job or anything like that. He's been important to FCS football as a whole. But there is a time when you just got to kind of go, okay, am I what's best for the program and its future? And certainly, I don't think some of the contingent out there in Cedar Falls would be upset if he decided to hang it up. But maybe new blood needs to come into that program to kind of get them back on track. They were a power not too long ago. I mean, 2019 knocked us out of the playoffs. We were injury riddled, but still, I think just to kind of recap, I was a little disappointed with them not being able to muster any consistency in that game on Saturday.
Yeah, and I will say though, UNI as a whole, you kind of look at them like a lot of times, like when they get down, like they're prone to quit when they get down. Mm-hmm. Like I say, like there's certain games that we played and we're like, I think it was 2019, the regular season, like it was a closer, like the game was further apart than it should have been because like they got down like a score and a half and they just kind of quit. So we blew them out. Like, you know what I mean? So,
yep.
That's just
that's a cultural issue.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a cultural issue at this point. And like when it starts to seep like that, and that's what I remember way back in the day when we were trying to find our stride in D1, and really we rattled off like 7 straight wins. But prior to that, the way we played at Montana, this was like 2006, the way we played at Montana, and then the way we played at Nichols, starting our first of a 7-game win streak, which now looks very JV with what the boys are doing.
30-1 in FCS.
Right. But we would get calls when we were exchanging tape back in the day. I don't know if they don't do that anymore, I don't think. So definitely dating myself. But when you look at how we played and the product we were putting on film, I think we did an exchange with LSU for McNeese tape. And I remember Coach Sarvis, our D-line coach, saying, and I don't know if he was trying to like give us some juice, because we were playing really tough opponents that already had established themselves in the FCS, like Montana at that point. And I mean, they won a title in 2001, I believe it was. So the LSU coaching staff was like, damn, your guys are playing, like your effort is there. Like, how are you getting your guys to play like that? And so, I mean, that's something, right? And so seeing that continue to progress throughout the years, that's our culture.
I think that's super uncommon. Like you watch, and like sometimes it's made it hard to, like, you know how it is, like to watch other teams play, because you're like, why is that guy jogging? Like, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like the play's going like, why is he jogging? Like you look at a lot of the plays our guys made, like Jared DePriest, that strip that he had. He was the last guy in. The guy was pretty much already down, but he just wanted to get a JOP, just jumped in there and punched the ball. Ball's out, Jack's ball. You know what I'm saying? Like, people don't get, like, bro, if you hustle, like, you get your rewards for that. I'm like, that's what I think a whole lot of players don't understand. Like, you're not running just to run. Like, I'm running there to lay an extra 280 pounds on this guy who's thinking he's running tough. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that stuff adds up.
Yeah, and on that point, when it comes to defensive line play, most of your sacks will come from effort energy, especially when you have a team that flies around like South Dakota State. If your first initial pass rush isn't getting it done, your transition pass rush and your effort will get you home. So in seeing other teams across the country, couldn't agree with you more. It's very inconsistent. It's funny because I want to tie this to something that I saw from Mark Gronowski. He posted a little mini highlight clip leading up to the national title game last year, and he threw some love out to a Chicago rapper, Polo G, right? And he did a remix. I think it's called Bad Man, but it's Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal. And one of the lines in it is, I can tell by his posture, man, he ain't really like that. And football is a game of hunting, right? Football is a game of hunting. It's hunt or be hunted. And when you see someone's posture just off a little bit, or when you see them not getting after it, you know they're done. You know you got them. Yeah. And so the Jacks have been really keen on identifying that and smelling blood in the water. So that's been fun to see. Moving on to offense. Should we talk offense or special teams?
Yeah, we talk. Special teams had a great day too. That block, especially coming out of the timeout too. I don't know what you and I was doing either, by the way, because like, bro, you just call it timeout. Like, if one thing shouldn't happen after a timeout, like this punt shouldn't be blocked. Thank goodness. I don't know what they have in the water up there. Thank goodness I don't know what they put in their Gatorade. But our boys came to play. Looked like they were taking a play off. Must have been. I don't know.
Yeah, and at the same time, it continues to show the game of cat and mouse, not only in the lead up with our depth chart, Jimmy doing some gamesmanship, but also showing that, okay, you want to call a timeout? Well, we'll hit you with a little bit of a different look, right?
And then flip the block.
He absolutely leveraged the timeout called by you and I. And, that's not the first time, because in the lead up to the spring national title game, first game of the year, Farley made a coaching goof again. So it's like, it's fascinating to see Coach Rogers continue to progress as a head coach, man. Just, I don't want to gas him up too much. He's not fazed by that anyway, because he's so focused, but he continues to show that it's awesome that we've got him on our side.
Yeah. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Hey, better late than never, though.
Thanks for tuning in, my guy. Shout out to FCS Nation and our boys over there, Kevin in Stone. Yeah, man. Hunter's been playing well. Scott, we got to shout him out again. Just booming punts. It seems like he's been very efficient in the punt game, pinning them inside the 20 left and right, punting with a really great average. The kicking game looked good too. We did miss a long one. I think that had more to do with the hold than anything. But yeah, man, it's so ironic, when we're watching the games, we're doing our dissection of all the phases. And we talked about it leading up before the SLU game. We're like, a lot of times when you don't hear anything from special teams, it's probably a good day. But lately they're like, hold my drink. Hold my drink. Watch what we got for you. And now they're like scoring or setting up a score, which is always one of the key metrics you look at post game when you're doing your evals. They've done that each of the past couple weeks, and then obviously in the punt game, flipping the field is excellent as well. So shout out to them. Not much more to say.
Yeah, and it's looking like all those dudes on those units, like, they're taking those reps seriously. And like, that's what the best special teams in the country, like, that's what they do, or in the country of, of whatever. Like, those reps are real reps, just because it doesn't go on my like tally count for a linebacker or for D-line or for O-line. Like, these guys are taking those reps super serious, trying to take people's heads off. Like, and I don't know if like, because you may not get the post game conference because you knocked the dude out on kickoff or on punt, but like we see it. Like if any of them watch this, like we seeing that. Like when y'all come to play ball and you guys are flying around out there, I think that's one of the more fun parts to watch because you can't watch real kickoffs anymore.
Absolutely, man. I think it's so funny because my guy Byer and Alex Byer, who I played with back in the day, we had a loaded tight end room. And when we were young, we were like, all right, well, I don't want to be on wedge, but we're on wedge. So let's knock him someone's face in the dirt, right? Let's make some use of our time. If we got to be out here, we got dudes running at us full speed. The game is still violent. They've since kind of neutered the game, but now it's like, this is our time to shine. Let's go show up. And we constantly used to get shouted out because we had a hellacious return game, and you start to see things haven't changed. The more time changes, the more things stay the same with the Jacks. You know what I'm saying?
And also that's special teams. Like it takes like a different kind of dude to be like, to want to go out there on special teams. Like I'd say one of my more fun times is like times I was actually shout out to Mason since you're watching game. I'm gonna shout you out. We were on Punch Shield together. This was the only time I got to be on the field with him. And like it would just be like that was just some of the most fun we had in football. Because it's like as a D lineman, like you'll never get to get your hands on like receivers and DBs from the other team. So I'm sitting there like I'm about to really be able to put my face on this wide receiver and take him for a ride and ruin his day. Like there's nothing better than that.
Yeah, man, indeed. I love it. Yeah, you got to relish the opportunity because you only get so many. I think I don't know if it was Zenner and I on one of our recent pods. We were doing the math, and I think 4 years of football, in average, if you're a role player or even a big time player, maybe 40 plays a game is the sweet spot. You figure 6 seconds a pop. So you're looking at, 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe a total game time. Multiply that by 10 games guaranteed. It's like 150 minutes, 150 minutes. So you're playing like 2.5 full hours of game time. Someone check my math. I'm a words guy. I'm not a numbers guy. I think that's
I didn't see the vocab today though. You've been going crazy with the words.
I gotta sprinkle them in. I gotta sprinkle them in. I'm like, I can't repeat myself and say absolutely every time. That's how we got known as the A team over in the JI pod. But yeah, no, it's relish your opportunities to make the most of them because they're fleeting. I think that's just kind of the message there. I do want to dive into offense before we get into YSU and the Hobo Day game. I had to be clean shaven because I had my honeymoon this past week. So I appreciate y'all bearing with us.
Beard going. You feel me?
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. My wife would have been quite upset if I rocked a full beard. But anyways, appreciate you guys bearing with us. We're going to do some Friday night football. This will kind of be our routine schedule this year because of work, travel, and all the life things that we've got obligations to fulfill. When it comes to our offensive production, the yards look good. We got to be better in our conversions. I mean, whether it be third down, converting in the red zone. I do like KP, Kentrell Prejean getting involved in the game. He's shown himself to be a nice little weapon, finding the soft spots in the zone, getting open. That's been promising to see continuing to show up on the film. I think we're getting a bit. I like that we're getting creative and throwing wrinkles in there with Chase. I like that he's toting the rock and just bringing that other element of physicality in the run game. I mean, because he's an absolute horse to try to bring down at 6'4", 235. I mean, I think that's probably pretty generous. I think he might be going more around 240, 245. But I think it kind of it creates a bit of disjointedness when he comes in and he's aligned next to Mark. The cadence is off. I'm sure they'll iron those things out, but I would like to see us maybe stick more to the fundamentals. Maybe just bring him in, maybe split Mark out, keep it simple, and then get creative off of that because them both side by side, I think it can disrupt some of the timing, some of the cadence issues. But I don't know. I could be reading too much into that. But ultimately, yeah, just converting on third down, gotta convert at a better clip. I think in the Rabbits recap, if you guys want to go read that, I think that's been fun for me to put together post game, but also kind of checking our metrics, our conversion percentages. I think we're somewhere around 40%. We got to get it way up. And then we've certainly got to do better when it comes to converting more in the red zone with 6.
Yeah. I think Scott made a point. Mark did look really comfortable, and he was able to make some of those veteran plays that you expect from like a dude that's been playing football for college football for 5 years. So, yeah, like, you know, and like he said, you know, credit to the O-line, they stepped up. I think that he looked really comfortable. It seems as though the bye week, you know, a couple weeks ago did everyone well because everyone kind of looked a lot more on the same page. The balls weren't off. You know, everyone's dropping in the bread basket for him. I guess it seems like he's kind of understanding, you know, how these cats run routes maybe differently from, you know, the guys that he's had for the last 6 years in a row. So, yeah, everything's starting to come together right at about the right time, right where we started hitting where it gets real serious for us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I definitely think that, you know, we got a better look in the pass game with things he felt more comfortable with, you know, taking what's available, checking it down a lot to Amar and to Angel, obviously, who's got that 60-plus yard scamper for 6. That was really nice to see. His balance, his poise at contact. Again, we mentioned it early on in the pod, really just unreal. When you look at some of the throws, again, Mark aimed. I'm going to be just direct about it. I think that the rhythm and timing will continue to progress. Again, when you lose all the production that you lost in the Yankee twins and Hines and Kraft and all those elements, now you're starting to settle in. Goring is a weapon. He's starting to emerge as either a 1 or 1A, as I mentioned in the Rabbits recap that you can check out on our blog at Splitting Hairs on Substack. And, you know, the running game really got kind of into a groove as well with everybody showing up to the party, with obviously Voorhees putting people on a highlight again, just leaping over people. I don't think I've seen someone leap over a defender and land on their feet in a Jacks uniform since Mikey Daniel. And, you know, that was really interesting because Mikey, going into this game, I was talking to him, and he was a bit concerned about their offensive backs who were very large. 6'4", 235, I think was their starter, Ty Edwards. So, you know, to be able to have our own running game kind of show up to the party with Voorhees having 8 for 45 at a 5.6 yard clip. Amar, 10 carries, 40 yards, kind of used him sparingly. Other guys had the hot hand, so, you know, we fed them. Angel, 6 carries for 31. So we're averaging a 4 to a 5.6 yard clip. Griffin had a carry, you know, sprinkling things in to make sure everybody got their touches and their valuable time. Mark ran the ball a little bit here and there. I think his net average was 2 carries for 8. I know one of them, he lost a lot of net yardage on a bad snap. So pretty consistent, I think, by and large, which is what you want to see. Anything to add in the run game?
Yeah, Scott said again, Kirby's hurdle was sick. Yeah, and it was crazy because, like, when he had jumped, like, he kind of landed in stride. Like, you know, like, I say you could tell somebody a real athlete because, like, I know for myself, like, if I was to jump over a whole human being and land, I would, like, stumble a little bit, maybe, like, look back, like, whoa, like, he really, like, he must have been practicing that because, like, he did it, like, all right, I've done this plenty of times, right over him. Like, I thought, yeah, that was sick. I thought we already talked about Angel, though. He's just, like, a freak, you know, even for, like, a shorter stature guy, being able to do what he does, you know, take contact how he does and then literally brush it off, and to be as fast as he is, like, in the open field, like, he's one of those guys you'd say, like, yeah, that dude's just a freak, you know, like, in the best way possible. So I think O-line's doing their deal, open up holes for guys, climb to the second level. Like you said, they're coming along, they're gelling a lot better, even with different guys in there. You know, run game's looking good. I think a lot of people are wondering, like, well, what are we going to do? Like, you know, with Zagon and how much we like to run gap scheme and power stuff, like, who's going to be our power back? Like, I think we'll be fine no matter what. This is what it looks like.
I think so. I think there's always room to improve, but like you said, the 605 Hawks definitely climbed, and that's historically a really good defense. I mean, second level defenders, the backers that they tend to roll out there, they got a rich history with Bryce Pop, who is I think he's their D coordinator. Obviously NFL player of the year at one point. So he knows ball. And then you look at Farley's had his own kid in there. Farley, I believe himself was a linebacker, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely just a rich history of dudes at that position. And then across the D line, I mean, they've had guys either go in the draft or get picked up as free agents. And so and they're always showing up on NFL rosters. So, it's the Northern Iowas, the South Dakota States, the North Dakota States, and then on occasion, when they get South Dakota State coordinators, the Yotes will also put some people in the league. So the Missouri Valley is real. And then when you transition and you look at the passing game, look at how many people touch the rock. Angel Johnson, Graham Goring, Griffin Wilde, Amar Johnson, Kentrell Prejean, David Alpers, Lofton Ogrosky, Brody Gormley, sorry, brother, Kevin Brenner, Drayton Gannon. So we got 10 different guys touch the rock. A couple of those guys chases the guy who's delivering the ball. But when you're distributing it like that, you're playing point guard like a fiend, sky's the limit.
Yeah. And then, for defenses, you can't really – it keeps you honest, right? You don't know where the ball's going, right? There's not, just this is their guy. Like, no, it could be going anywhere. I can't take a rep off because if I do, it could be 6. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So.
I like how Mark's completion percentage was up in this game relative to some previous ones. 16 to 22 for 223 yards and 3 tuds. That's nice. That's a nice little day. I will say this offensively in terms of the yardage that we accumulated on the ground, the game was kind of in hand. We got to consistently eclipse the 150 mark. Us being at 139, that leaves a lot to be desired. I know the boys will get right on that. That to me, that's pretty paltry for what our standard is. 251 through the air, that's nice. I mean, that's pretty. I don't really have much more to say there other than, again, converting in the red zone and not leaving points on there. And then defensively, I want a goose egg. I don't want to see this damn 3 on there. Let's get zeros. Let's get zeros, especially on Hobo Day, where you got the Gwens, you got the flightless geese that are coming to town, them water birds. Speak on it. What do you got?
I suppose this would be our segue, but I don't want to sound like I'm not trying to sound crazy right now, but to be fair, right? Like the Jacks offense should put up points on these guys. Like I'm talking about buku points, like something crazy because they were in a shootout with Valpo. You know what I'm saying?
Who? Valpo, yeah. I thought you said Falco. I thought you said Falco, like sugar, like footsteps. Shane Falco from the Replacements.
No, I was saying bro, they were in a real shootout with them. You know what I'm saying? The Jacks, their defense just leaves so much to be desired from me. Especially from what I've seen from them in the past. I think when I was a freshman, in 2016, Youngstown State was legit. I mean, they had I want to say Derek Rivers, one of their DNs, got drafted to the Patriots. And to see kind of how they've been playing now, they deserve to get roughed up on Hobo Day. You know what I'm saying? These guys about earned it. And I offensively wise, I think their quarterback he's an athlete. He got some wheels on him, especially I'll call him sneaky athletic. For you guys who don't know what that means, he's white. But he got some wheels on him. He can move. So especially he's not afraid to really pull it. I think in a few games I was watching, dude, he had some 30, 40-yard runs. Dude can move. But the way our defense has been playing, I know they'll take care of business. I'll put it that way.
I feel like I'm a little more tempered in my approach. We'll get to it. But just a quick segue. Any future sponsors? Kevin thinks that I need to get a hair gig here. My products that I use in my hair, man, it's typically just water. It's typically I trained it. This bad boy will stay this way. If you don't believe me, it's the truth. I wish it was a little less gray, but that's neither here nor there. Thank you for commenting on my appearance. At least it's not a broke mug like I had growing up. Bowl cut and a broke ass grill. Yeah, man. So I agree wholeheartedly. I think Youngstown obviously has been down this year, down when you look at it in contrast with years past. The Fighting Pellinis, man, they would always show up and they'd be physical and tenacious. This team will also be that. I think they're well coached and not reflective of their win total on the year. Starting off the season with a tough opponent at Villanova, that's kind of rough, right? Especially when you got a young quarterback in there that's trying to earn his keep. 24-17, they lost a tight one in a ranked matchup. I think they're both ranked going into that one. They escaped, and they ended up not making it close against Valpo. But Valpo, dude, let's keep it real. You should not be allowing 3+ touchdowns to a team like that.
Absolutely.
No shade to Valpo, but this is
Yeah.
Missouri Valley, right? Like, it is a Power 2 conference in the FCS. It is the Big Sky and the Missouri Valley Football Conference. And to Kevin's point, I always like to sprinkle this in there too when I can. There's only one of those that plays everybody in the conference. And actually, we don't even play everybody in the conference now due to the numbers. But yeah, so I think it's Power 2, and you got to show up better against teams like that. And then to lose to Duquesne. Duquesne has been a playoff team in the recent past. So, can't really fault them there, but you lost at home, 28-25.
Yeah.
And then Pitt, we're not even going to talk about that. Pitt's undefeated right now, and obviously a completely different caliber than what Youngstown. Yeah.
They're playing good football.
To lose to FCS Missouri State, the Conference USA foe now. I say that tongue in cheek because they're now FBS. So they almost notched an FBS win, 38-31. But they're playing close. At least with Missouri State, and then Indiana State coming away with one score victory there, 21-14. I don't know, man. I don't know. Coming on the road, Hobo Day, they're going to have to bring it. But like you said before, and then I'll wrap it up, they're going to want to pants the Jacks, especially after what we did to them on their turf last year.
Yeah, it looks it depends how these guys want to come out and play. Like I said, like I enjoy watching their quarterback play. It kind of reminds me of he's a bigger version like Stone a little bit, in that like he's got some stuff to him, you know what I'm saying? And he's not afraid to pull it. I think I forgot his name. The receiver number 4 is a really good player. He like he gets open a lot, and like once he creates separation, he's gone. But I think that
it's Max Tomczak.
Yeah, I think that them being, I don't know if I'm wrong in this, but I'd say that they're better on offense than they are on defense. I think that plays to our advantage, I believe, because like if it came down to like how they've been playing, if it comes down to like a shootout, like brother, like you're not gonna have like a shootout like with this defense, right? Like God forbid, we don't want the Jacks to lose a game. If they lose a game, they're gonna lose like 10-7. It's like you're not putting up points like that on these guys, especially the way they've been playing recently. So I think their defense has a really tall task ahead of them. And hopefully our offense comes out ready to play, fired up, kind of continuing where they were and getting better from last week. But I think I don't know. Maybe I just watched the wrong games when I was watching. Yeah. But I wasn't as impressed as I wasn't like super high on Youngstown anyway, just from their performance the last couple of years. But I was not impressed like when I watched, because I think I watched the Valpo game, the Duquesne game, and then the Pitt game I didn't hold against them, but like still.
Yeah. You make good points, but we should put a little caveat on that. Probably haven't been as impressed as in years past later in the season, because they usually start out fairly decent, climb into the rankings. They're right there in the conversation for potentially at-large bid, at 7-4, 8-3, something of that ballpark. And then it seems like the wheels fall off. Now, with this new coaching staff,
I'm sorry, did they win a playoff game last year?
I think maybe.
Yeah, they went out to Villanova. Yeah. Sorry. Hey, my bad, Youngstown fans. Look, I wasn't familiar with your game.
No, they didn't win Villanova, because remember we were in that wild game with Villanova. Yeah. but I believe they were in the playoffs. If they didn't win, they certainly were at the party. I think it's of note. Like you're saying, I do like the matchup because games are about matchups. And then the added juice, given the atmosphere, given the circumstances rolling in, everyone's going to get your best shot as number one opponent, even if you're not equipped to compete with that number one. But again, people are questioning the Jacks as a number one opponent and the number one team in the FCS. And I mean, overall, yeah, I'm going to be hard on the Jacks. I think they got to show more. I think they're showing enough on D and special teams, but you got to put it all together. I mean, the FCS, as you get later in the year and as you get into Missouri Valley play, North Dakota State, they're going to have something to say, right? You look at Illinois State, we don't play them this year. They always kind of play us tough. Obviously, I've heard people say USD might be the best team in South Dakota. South Dakota State might not even be the best team in South Dakota, according to Reddit FCS. And those guys, they seem to be right here and there. We'll see how it shakes out. But I like the matchup, going back to it. I like the matchup of their offense being a little more of their go-to in terms of units than their defense. I like that because I think it plays into our hands, specifically on the ball security front. When you look at Bo, the quarterback, Bo Brungard, he's turned the ball over 6 times. Going back to last year, overall, he's 6 touchdowns to 7 picks. His completion percentage is really high, but what that tells me without deep analysis of the game film, just watching here and there, I think that those are probably a lot of checkdowns to intermediate passes. They do have a long of 73, so that could skew it. But if I had to guess, he's not efficient at driving the ball down the field. And if you can't be multidimensional against the Jacks, it's lights out. So we'll see how it shakes out tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that like you said, you're going to get your best shot from everyone. So obviously, like, you're going to see some stuff that you haven't seen before, and you're going to get, some crazy looks, I'm sure. Like you're going to get your Coach-esque kind of out there play, I'm sure, from these guys. But, I think our defense, if they come out and play and just keep progressing how they have from the beginning of the season, like, they're going to shape up to be where they want to be at the end of the year. Like, I've been, it's been just because it's not the same team from last year. And obviously that's probably one of the greatest teams we're probably ever going to see grace the FCS. I think it's easy to be hard on the team as a whole, but, to shout out the defense is as you have been doing, like, these guys are playing some good football, right? And I think it's only a matter of time before, the other side of the ball, they kind of find their stride too. And that, with the new faces, who's going to be the dudes, like all that kind of stuff. And once they figure that out, I'd love to see what this team's ceiling is.
Bingo. We're going to clip that and put it on a reel as well. That was well put. I think when it comes to being one-dimensional too, we've seen that song and dance left and right when it relates to the Jacks and their defensive play. So when we look at their rushing, I mean, it doesn't bode well for them from a Penguin standpoint. Only twice this year have they eclipsed 100 yards rushing, once against Missouri State and once against Valpo. So rubber's going to hit the road at some point.
Yeah, so y'all better come to play. Our defense not playing with y'all. I'll put it that way.
Against Duquesne, they rushed 12 times for 39 yards. Against Indiana State, 6 carries for 43 yards. Oh, I don't know if this is just the quarterback. I don't know if this is total rushing. No, he wouldn't have 16 rushes for 110 yards. That's them as a whole. That's them as a whole. My goodness.
You have to check.
I had to check that. Yeah, I'm not trying to throw shade, man. I'm trying to be tempered. I'm a legitimate sports journalist. But no, it's gonna be an interesting day for the Penguins, and it's the weather. The weather's still warm, and they don't do well in these environments.
So yeah, I want to see. Hopefully, offense gets after them early. Then the defense can kind of kick in, do their thing. Second half, we could get the boys some love on Hobo Day. Everybody's mom's coming out, all their friends are out.
Yep.
all the students are going to be there. Like, let some of the younger guys get some play tomorrow. Like catch a pass in front of one of the cute girls in the stands that's in his biology 101 class. You know what I'm saying? Let's take care of business, man.
There you go. Let them know. Let them know. And I think on that note, we should remind everybody, be locked in, be locked into the game, get loud. I think it's another sellout. It's becoming sellout you in a good way. I'm liking what I'm seeing from the Jackrabbit faithful. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm going to have to work on the branding on that one a little bit. But, they're showing up in droves. How about that? What did the Oklahoma State guy call a group of jackrabbits? Somebody in the comments help me out here. It was something. It was clever, but I was like, I think he's just making up stuff on the PA. But it was fascinating to learn a little something from the Stillwater contingent down there. We should note that the head coach for Youngstown State was a former special teams coordinator with Cincinnati. So let's pay attention to some wrinkles in the return game. Let's pay attention to some wrinkles in punt fake, stuff like that, because they're going to have to do something to get a spark, because with the momentum and the depth that we've been able to build at South Dakota State through wins, through our success, we've recruited better players. Our third string back, KTV, he could start on many rosters right now out of Florida. Florida to South Dakota connection is alive and well with Spalding and Zach Johnson from last year. I think Brian Williams is a Florida guy.
Zach Williams,
Juice,
Zach Wilson, yeah,
Durant,
D. Cole's a Florida guy.
D. Cole, and Florida Jacks, baby.
Yeah, law firm. Yeah,
the law firm. Everybody, man, we got a lot of Florida Jacks. Shout out to those guys. Hopefully, their families are doing all right. Hurricane Milton was no joke. I hope their areas, their homes, their families weren't impacted too much by all the chaos. Hopefully we can move beyond that. But yeah, man, it's crazy to see the pipeline and where it's extending to in all these different regions and territories. Obviously, we're winning our home state with recruits, dipping in North Dakota, stealing their top talent. That's always fun to see. But it is fascinating to hear. There are plenty of voices in the crowd stating that we're not the best team in South Dakota. So that'll be fascinating to see how that plays out. The boys have an opportunity on Saturday to show their brand of ball and let the critics be what they may as it relates to the best team in South Dakota on Saturday.
Indeed.
So let's get into our final thoughts here. Some potential players of the game and predictions. Let's start with offense to defense to special teams, and then score.
Let's say offense. I'm gonna go Amar. I have a feeling that we might, with the way their defense plays, we might get our mid zone going. Get him that one cut 40-yard tutty. I'll go Amar for offense. Defense. This one's hard just because it could be literally anybody. But you know what, though? I'm a D-tackle at heart, man, still. So I got to go Jared DePriest. I know. Look, gang, if you get out anything like you did last week, Jared DePriest. Special teams, we'll go Hunter. Does his deal. We don't have to talk about him a whole bunch because he's not really making any mistakes. So I'll shout him out there.
That's true. I like it. Those are good picks. I'm going to go a different route because I think some different things are going to happen as a result of how they scheme us up. I'd love to see our running game going. I wouldn't be mad if we threw it 3 times, all 3 to tight ends, but I'm not biased or anything. I'm going to go offensively with Griffin Wilde. I think he's going to knock the rust off, find the holes in the zone, and I think they're going to try to stack the box against the run. They're going to have to do different things. They're going to try to light us up with some blitzes, but I think he's going to find his stride and get in his element again, get in his bag. We know what he can do when he touches the rock. Put it anywhere near him, he's going to go up and get it. I think the defensive player of the game for me is going to be Dallas Beanham. I think because we're going to shut them down from the chain gangs perspective, and our linebacker play as far as stacking it up against the run, looking at that in contrast with their run production so far, I think we're going to feast out there on the edge. Hopefully, our safeties have been playing good, so I think we're going to potentially force some coverage sacks. But at the end of the day, I think beat them. And then as it relates to special teams, we could go a number of directions here. We could go potential kick returners. We could go. I think Voorhees is due for a nice little kick return, but I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Voorhees. I'm going to keep it different. I'm going to go spicy. We're going to go with Voorhees. KTV for the fans. Have our Florida boy, rise up, give a shout out to his home state for everything they're going through, and it's going to be Voorhees. So those are my 3 picks. Scott's weighing in with his 3. We love it. Scott does a great job for us on the prediction. Yeah, Scott does a great job for us on the blog. Make sure you check his blog out tomorrow. It'll drop. Angel, Beanham in special teams and on defense. Let's go, son. 2/3 production. 44-3. Okay. I'd like our offense to score a little bit more, but 3's good.
I was thinking in that range too, just because. Again, I am a hater, and we know this. We know I'm a hater. Like, I'm not. This isn't saying nothing new, but I think our boys have a chance to put up some real points. So I'll go 42. 42 zip, man. Well, you know what? 42 zip, goose egg.
Ooh. Nice. Okay. 6 tuds, 0. All right. I like it. Ah, man. Now I'm on the spot. I got a little overzealous against Augie. Yeah. It wasn't. Yeah, it was a little excited. I got a little excited. Guys had to hit their stride. Augie came ready. I think I was kind of close against SLU, but I got more conservative, so it was an overcorrection. My guy Eric Ellingworth against Augie too. He was completely offended, and I shouldn't have done him like that. He sang his fight song on here and everything, man. He was not bashful, to say the least. I'm gonna go 38-6. 38-6. I would like to shout out the boys on the defensive side of the ball one last time, because I wanted our total points average surrendered to kind of come down from, I think it was around 17 plus, given that skewed matchup against Oklahoma State. We needed to only surrender about 10 last week to bring that down to about 15 to 14. We've only given up 6 points in the last 3 games. So, yeah, that's something. And so 38-6 is my prediction. Couldn't agree more, Kevin. This is something to just note when looking at polls. I know it's spelled differently, but I think polls are only good for one thing. May or may not involve some ladies.
Hey, man, you're a married man.
I know. I've never been to one of those establishments. I can honestly say.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't even know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. I just drove 14 hours from the southernmost point of the U.S. all the way to the Panhandle to fly back from my my honeymoon. So shout out to my lovely wife who put up with all my antics. But yeah, so it's going to be a good one tomorrow. Make sure everybody partakes in all the festivities, the parade, the tailgates. Show up, show out. Obviously, be responsible. Let's not have a cloud overshadowing Hobo Day, which is like the best event in the state annually. So let's keep all that in mind. Have a good time. You don't want to show up on a viral video that I've seen in the past.
Yeah, I've seen some people. We call a dude what? One dude was like the right hand of Brookings. I think Hobo Day, like I want to say it was like my freshman year. Yeah. Bad news bears. Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy. You don't want to end up on the internet like that.
Yeah. We're all Jacks fans. Have a good time.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not be fighting one another. Let's love one another. That's the theme, right? Kevin loves my hair, so it's love all the way around. All right, fellas. Thank you again, Stack. Thank you again to our sponsors, Utamark Insurance. You never know when you need a helping hand in life when it throws you a curveball. So make sure you check them out for insurance needs covering South Central Minnesota, dipping into South Dakota for all your needs there. Email me, text me, whatever, message me on Facebook if you want to get in touch with them. Likewise, shout out to Cottonwood Coffee and Bistro. Got to check them out pregame. Get your coffee and caffeine in so you can be juiced for the whole day. I think kickoff is 2 p.m.? somewhere in that time frame. Typically it's a 2 p.m. kick. So make sure you're in the stands early. You're at tailgate. You get to the parade again. And with that, go big, go blue, go Jacks.
GoJacks.
Let's get some.